So honored to, I thank God for being able to be here today as we observe the 60th year of the march that my father and leadership of Boston led 60 years ago. Mayor Wu, I know it's your congresswoman, but my congresswoman too, Presley, each and every elected official here, to all religious and spiritual leaders here. Gotta say something special about Dr. Amari Parrish Jeffries and the committee that actually worked so diligently to have the monument erected not far from here. The Embrace Monument. And I know I'm missing someone. You know, it's important to speak to our most precious resource, our children. Our children, because a nation is judged by how it treats its most precious resource. And I would imagine that if those from another planet that existed came and looked at what we are doing as a nation and how we are treating our most precious resource, they would probably say we are not doing a good enough job. We must and we can do better. Let me also say to Karen Kenyatta Russell, so good to be with and see you again. And I'm going to be through in just a few minutes. We don't need a lot of time. We know what our mission is, I believe. But my dad would say, somehow we have to hew out of a mountain of despair a stone of hope. And particularly in this time, because I would have thought that by the time I was 67 years old, that racism would be gone, buried, not that racism would be coming back. Therefore, we must quadruple our efforts to create a more just and humane society. We used to exhibit humanity and civility, but we have chosen temporarily to allow civility to be moved aside. And that is not sustainable, my friends. My father taught us about nonviolence, one of the greatest proponents, and I should say my mother, of nonviolence. And certainly I owe a great debt of gratitude to this city, because had they not met here in Boston, I perhaps wouldn't be here. So I am so grateful for the love story that came together in this city. And every time I come here, I derive something special, energetically. You know, everything is about energy. And today, we've got to find a way to move forward when everything appears to be being dismantled. It seems to be attempting to break things up. Now, you do have to retreat sometimes, but Dad showed us how to stay on the battlefield, and Mom, throughout their lives. They showed us how to build community. My father's last book was entitled, "Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community?" We've seen chaos for quite a few years now. But out of that chaos must come community that is sustainable. Because in the United States of America, everyone deserves a decent home.
Yes.
Now, let me explain that. A decent home could be the circumference of where I'm standing now. Have we seen tiny homes being erected all across this country? I mean, in a nation of over 300 million, and a nation with a 20 plus $5 trillion economy, something is dramatically wrong. Wealth is in the hands of just a few. And when I say a decent home, by the way, as I said, I'm talking about, it doesn't have to be a 5,000 square foot home. If you're able to do that, that's great. But everybody in the United States of America ought to have health care. Not some, but everyone. Everyone in America ought to have the best education, not some schools performing and others not. Everyone should have a decent job, and everyone deserves justice. We have a criminal system, not a criminal justice system. You go down to the courthouse today, no matter what city you're in. Richard Pryor used to say this, looking for justice, and all you'll find is just us. Jails full of people. Not saying we don't need jails, but we need a system that is representative, more indigent defense attorneys, so that all people can achieve justice, not just some. I think my father and mother would challenge us to be a better America, because we can become that. It starts with something called love. And it's not, Dad talked about number of loves. I won't talk about them today, but I'll talk about the highest level of love. It's agape love.
Woo!
It's love that is totally unselfish and seeks nothing in return. You love someone if they're old or young, black or white, Native American or Hispanic and Latino American, African or Asian. You love them because you know that God loves you, and that's the kind of love we got to embrace to change this system right now. So I want to urge you, 60 years has passed. We don't have the luxury of stopping. We don't have the luxury of giving in or giving out. We have to keep moving forward until that dream that Dad shared becomes real for all humankind. It's a dream of freedom and justice and equality for all humankind, not just some. You know, we're so much better than we are behaving today. So what do? We challenge leadership. We have to challenge this president. Doesn't seem to be challengeable, some may say. But if you don't stand up and engage, you'll fall for anything. And I'm not here to talk about one person, because it really is a collective. One person can present dangerous options, but someone else can come and collectively we can create positive energy, because everything is energy in this universe. How we choose to show up and show out. And when we say demonstration, we're not talking about a violent demonstration. Dad advocated for nonviolence. That's what he represented every day. Although, as I get ready to close, I want to share one thing. This is 57 years, by the way, since my father's assassination. every Sunday, every time he traveled, and when he preached on Sundays, he would call his secretary on Thursday or Friday and share with her what his sermon was going to be on that Sunday. So he was killed on April 4th, for Thursday. So April 7th, he would have this sermon he would have preached. He told her, he said, I'm going to be preaching a message. And this may be, it certainly will be interesting to some of you, but you have to understand the context. The name of that sermon was going to be America May Go to Hell. Now, that's revolutionary because you say, oh, that's bad. No, he was not a negative person. He always challenged us to become the best. And he showed up providing that example. And I guess what I'm saying is if we don't have a course correction, and a course correction soon, we may end up going to hell. That's not what I want. That's not what I'm going to accept. But I want us to think about that. Think about how do we show up the best we can be each and every day. How do we show up no matter what we do? Everybody can do a little bit. I visited my mom's undergraduate institution called Antioch College. And actually, let me say one more thing before I say that. You know, I come out of a family, I'm not a preacher, but I come out of a family of preachers. And they're always attempting to close. Getting ready to close. I got one more thing to say. Something popped in my head I needed to say. You know, I want to understand what's wrong with my nation when we mistreat veterans.
That's right.
Cutting money from veteran services. What's wrong with our nation when we mistreat seniors? What's wrong with our nation when we mistreat our children? Now, we have an immigration problem. But we have gone across this nation and gone into schools and churches and intercepted families and telling people to go back or go somewhere, when we don't even acknowledge the fact that every last one of us came from somewhere else. How hypocritical can we be? Only group of people that have the right to operate a little differently are those that we mistreat the worst. That's called our indigenous or Native American citizens. Again, what kind of nation do we have? We have got to reclaim our humanity. And that means standing up together. So I go back to Antioch College, which is where my mom took me. And on that college was a statue of the educator Horace Mann. And under that statue was an inscription. It said, "Be ashamed to die until you won a victory for humanity." I said, I was 14. I went back about 5 times with my mom. And finally I figured out how to interpret that because it's so powerful. Be ashamed to die till you won a victory for humanity. Well, how do you do that? You see, we can win victories in our neighborhood. We can win victories in our schools. We can win victories in our places of worship. Some of us may win victories in our city, some in our state. Some may win victories for our nation. Others still yet may win victories for our world. All those words mean are be ashamed to die until you've done a little something to make the world in which we all must live a little better than it was when you arrived. So let's get to work. Thank you, and may God bless you, Bostonians, always.